Well, the last type of family situation I'm going to be talking about here is single-parent families. And for all practical purposes here, I'm talking about mother-headed families that are the result of divorce and illegitimacy. Today, about a third of all American families are single-parent families. And that's more than twice the number in 1970. 1970, about 13% of all of our families were single-parent families. Today, as I said, it's about 30%. Well, I've talked about divorce and its consequences, so I thought I would talk here mainly about illegitimacy. We have, in this country, in recent years, had over 1 million, about 1.2 million illegitimate births every year. In fact, a third of all of our births today are out of wedlock in the United States. Well, what's the reason for this mainly? Well, of course, sexual promiscuity. Recent studies show that 75 to 85% of young men and women before the age of 20 have had sexual intercourse, beginning usually average age around 15 or 16. And some of my students in my marriage class say, well, I guess I have to write a paper about their life in the context of marriage and the family. And some of them say, I guess I'm like the national average, because that's when I lost it as well. Well, anyhow, many of these sexually active teenagers, of course, get pregnant. The teenage pregnancy rate has increased 80% since 1970. Now say, well, so what about this? Well, just from a non-moral standpoint here, 60% of these teenage mothers haven't finished high school by the time they deliver their babies. So they, some of them get a GED, but hardly any of them go on to college. So they're disadvantaged from the very beginning in taking care of themselves and their children. So this is why the U.S. Conference of Mayors study in 1990 showed that 35% of the homeless today are made up of single-parent, these mother-headed families. They're the most rapidly growing subset of the homeless. And they're called the new homeless for that reason. And they have an extremely low monthly average income of about $121 a month. Only about half of these women get AFDC, and about I meant to say a third of them get AFDC, and half get food stamps. Because if you're homeless, it's sometimes difficult, when you don't have a permanent address to get welfare. Some of these teenage girls, of course, resort to pregnancy. To abortion. They don't carry their pregnancies to term. Girls 15 to 19 contribute about 25% of the abortions every year. Of course, another important problem that results from sexual promiscuity is the contracting of venereal diseases. About 25% of teenagers contract a venereal disease every year, the main one being chlamydia. And the girls, of course, sometimes get pelvic inflammatory disease from this, and it accounts for some 200,000 cases, I'm told, of infertility every year, plus ectopic pregnancies, tubal pregnancies. And then, of course, they have diseases, other venereal diseases like genital herpes and warts. They transmit those to their children at the time of pregnancy. AIDS cases, of the 360,000 some cases of AIDS in the United States, 20% of the victims are under 20 years of age. Well, why do we have this sexual promiscuity? Well, the moral standards that our society used to give lip service to, at least, have fallen victim to secularism. We also have, I think because of our preoccupation with sex, as well as better nutrition and health care, young people are reaching puberty early, like a foot earlier. More like 12, 13 years of age. And yet, on the other hand, they're marrying later, so there's a large span of years there during which they have to, if they want to be morally right, exercise self-discipline. And, of course, that takes supernatural motivation to do that. And so there's a long period of time there before they can legitimately and morally speaking have sexual relations. So in the meantime, many of them fall victim to secular trends. Then we have declining school budgets, and all these married women working means that many teenagers are unsupervised after school, and they go around with their peers or interact with them, and some of them are then lured into sexual experimentation. And then in the inner cities, we read about fatalism and resignation, hopelessness. As some ghetto girls say, I better have a baby right now, because if I wait till I'm 19 or 20, all the guys around here are going to be in prison or dead. So I might as well do it while the time is ripe, as it were. That's what they say. And others say, well, I don't have any hope. But they say, I keep hearing people say children are the hope of the future. So I'm going to create some hope. Or I want somebody to love. Or all my friends are getting pregnant. Then obviously there's the saturation of the American culture with sex. So you take programs like Roseanne and Married with Children, the MTV movies, the Calvin Klein sexually provocative ads, books and videos of people like Michael Jackson and Madonna, and the lyrics of these rappers and so on. So it's not surprising then that we find our young people being sexually permissive. Well, as a result of what I've just said here, many people will say, well, I think the family is going down the tubes, or has already gone down the tubes, let's forget it. But I don't think we want to be that hopeless about the whole situation, so I have some suggestions that I'd like to make working from within to strengthen the family. Parents should, I think, tell their children that family values are paramount. Even many of our politicians are saying that today. That even more important than one's job and the prestige or occupation, career, whatever you want to call it, and the prestige and the money that you get from your position. And that parents should tell their children that when they see families that have very strong marital and family ties, that they should know that this doesn't just happen by accident, that it takes time and effort to develop such close family ties. Then the parents also have to teach as well as live, I think, spiritual values. I think I can still remember my mother particularly, the things that she said, about contraception, like you never talk against the Pope, natural law and so on. My dad used to kid her that she could be the Pope's right-hand man. But I've never forgotten, woman I should say, but I've never really forgotten what she said. But they have to teach their children that such practices as premarital sex, extramarital sex, and show them in the Bible, Matthew 15:19, this is unacceptable, for Christians. Contraception, abortion, sterilization, divorce, not the Christian way to go. But the parents have to not just teach that, but live it themselves. They have to show love and respect between themselves, the married couple, and between themselves and their children. Some experts point out that one reason why so many young people are joining these cults to get a feeling of belonging and commitment is because they're not reared in families where there are spiritual values and where there's love and respect.